The massive chamber fell silent as Queen Elizabeth Rodriguez of Earth stepped through the reinforced doors of the Galactic Council headquarters. Her boots echoed against the crystalline floor while 12 alien species watched from their elevated platforms. The air hummed with tension as translators worked overtime to convert her measured footsteps into frequencies each species could understand. Council Chairman Vextar, a towering insectoid with multiple compound eyes, clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among his kind. His voice carried across the chamber through the universal translation matrix. "Ah, the primitive mammal arrives at last. We wondered if your kind had finally learned to navigate beyond your single moon." Elizabeth's jaw tightened, but she maintained her diplomatic composure. She had prepared for this moment for months, knowing that humanity's first formal address to the Galactic Council would set the tone for centuries of interstellar relations. Behind her, Admiral Connor Blake and Minister of Alien Affairs Lisa Parker took their positions at the human delegation table. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," Elizabeth began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "I come before you today representing the United Nations of Earth, seeking formal recognition and membership in this ancient body. The Zephyrin Ambassador, a creature resembling a floating jellyfish with bioluminescent patterns, pulsed in rapid flashes that translated to mockery. Recognition? Your species barely survived its own industrial revolution. You wage wars over resources that are abundant throughout the galaxy. Council member Thrakis, whose rock-like exterior concealed centuries of diplomatic experience, rumbled in his gravelly voice. The humans request membership after existing as a spacefaring civilization for what, 50 of their years? We have members who were exploring the cosmos when your sun was still forming." Elizabeth felt her carefully maintained diplomatic facade beginning to crack. She had spent years preparing Earth's case for Council membership, documenting humanity's rapid technological advancement and potential contributions to galactic society. The briefing materials she carried contained detailed analyses of human innovation, creativity, and adaptability. "With respect, Council members," she replied, keeping her tone level. "While humanity may be young in galactic terms, our rapid development and unique problem-solving capabilities could bring fresh perspectives to this body." Chairman Vextar's compound eyes focused on her with predatory intensity. "Fresh perspectives? Your species' idea of diplomacy involves launching nuclear weapons at each other. Your planet is scarred by conflicts that our younglings would resolve with simple communication. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, spoke in harmonious tones. The humans demonstrate concerning aggressive tendencies. Their historical records show continuous warfare spanning millennia. How can such a violent species contribute meaningfully to our peaceful assembly?" Admiral Blake shifted uncomfortably behind Elizabeth, his military bearing evident despite the diplomatic setting. Minister Parker reviewed her notes frantically, searching for counter-arguments to the mounting criticism. "Every species has periods of conflict during development," Elizabeth countered. "Humanity has learned from its mistakes and established global cooperation unprecedented in our history." Laughter erupted again, this time more pointed and cruel. The Aquatic Federation's bubble-encased delegates spoke through water-filtered communication devices. "Global cooperation? Your planet still maintains thousands of nuclear weapons. Your governments cannot agree on basic environmental policies, while your world slowly dies from industrial excess." The criticism stung because it carried elements of truth. Earth did still struggle with unity on many issues, but Elizabeth believed humanity had made significant progress toward planetary cooperation. Chairman Vextar leaned forward on his platform. Perhaps the humans would benefit from another century or two of isolation. They might develop actual civilization by then, rather than their current state of barely controlled chaos. "We cannot grant Council membership to a species that threatens galactic stability through their inherent violent nature," added the Silicon-based collective's representative. "Their military history alone disqualifies them from serious consideration." Elizabeth's composure finally cracked as murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. "You speak of violence and instability, yet you judge us without understanding our journey. Yes, humanity has fought wars, But those conflicts forged our strength and unity. Strength? Vextar's mandibles clicked in amusement. Your entire military could not challenge a single council enforcement fleet. Your technology remains primitive by galactic standards. Your social structures are fragmented and inefficient. The collective representative added insult to perceived injury. Perhaps in several thousand years, when the humans have evolved beyond their current primitive state, we might reconsider their application. Until then, they remain an amusing curiosity. Elizabeth felt something fundamental shift within her as the chamber filled with alien laughter. The months of preparation, the hope for peaceful integration into galactic society, the belief that humanity could find its place among the stars. All of it crumbled under the weight of their contempt. Admiral Blake caught her eye and nodded slightly. Minister Parker closed her diplomatic folders with finality. The human delegation had received their answer, though not the one they had hoped for. "Very well," Elizabeth said quietly, her voice carrying a new edge that made several council members pause their laughter. "Humanity has heard your judgment." She turned sharply and walked toward the chamber exit, her delegation falling in behind her. The alien laughter continued as they departed, but Elizabeth was no longer listening. Something had awakened in her during those moments of humiliation. Something that would reshape the galaxy itself. As the doors closed behind them, Elizabeth Rodriguez was already planning humanity's response to galactic mockery. The journey back to the human transport vessel passed in tense silence. Admiral Blake finally broke the quiet as they reached their ship. "Your Majesty," the Council's response was unfortunate. Elizabeth's eyes held a cold fire that her closest advisors had never seen before. Unfortunate is insufficient to describe what just occurred in that chamber. They dismissed humanity as if we were children playing with toys. Minister Parker attempted diplomatic damage control. Perhaps we can approach individual council members privately. Build support for our membership application through smaller alliances? No. Elizabeth's voice carried absolute finality. They want to treat humanity as children? They want to dismiss our potential contributions to their precious council? Then they will learn exactly what humanity is capable of when we stop asking for permission. Admiral Blake straightened at the implication in her tone. "Ma'am, what are your orders?" Elizabeth stared out the viewport at the massive council station, its multiple docking bays filled with vessels from across the galaxy. Thousands of alien diplomats and bureaucrats went about their business, maintaining the galactic order that had existed for millennia. "Prepare a secure communication to Earth Command," she instructed. "Authorization level Alpha 1. We're implementing the Prometheus Protocol." Both Blake and Parker exchanged concerned glances. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's most classified contingency plan, developed in secret during the years leading up to first contact. Few people knew of its existence, and fewer still understood its full implications. "Your Majesty," Parker said carefully, "the Prometheus Protocol was designed as a theoretical framework. We never intended actual implementation." Elizabeth turned from the viewport, her expression resolute. "Theoretical became practical the moment they laughed at humanity's potential. Admiral, how long until we reach Earth?" 18 hours at maximum burn," Blake replied. "Make it 12, and send word ahead. I want the full cabinet assembled upon our arrival. Every department head, every military branch commander, every resource coordinator. What happened today changes everything." As their vessel departed the council station, Elizabeth composed her thoughts for the address she would give to Earth's leadership. The aliens had made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. They saw humanity's conflicts and struggles as weakness, but Elizabeth understood them as humanity's greatest strength. Every war had taught humanity new lessons about strategy, logistics, and determination. Every crisis had forced human innovation and adaptation. Every challenge had proven that humanity never accepted defeat as final. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity as primitive and violent. They were about to discover that human ruthlessness, properly directed, could reshape the galaxy itself. Elizabeth smiled grimly as Earth grew larger in their viewport. The Council had ended humanity's diplomatic path to galactic membership. Now humanity would forge its own path, and the galaxy would never be the same. 12 hours later, Elizabeth stood before the assembled leadership of Earth in the emergency session chamber deep beneath the Continental Defense Command Center. The faces around the table represented every major nation and military alliance on the planet. They laughed at us. Elizabeth began without preamble. The Galactic Council dismissed humanity as primitive children unworthy of membership in their ancient club. They suggested we spend several thousand years evolving beyond our current state. General Patricia Murphy, Earth Defense Force Supreme Commander, leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing, Your Majesty?" Elizabeth activated the holographic display at the center of the table. Complex star charts filled the air above them, showing council member homeworlds, trade routes, and strategic installations. The Prometheus Protocol calls for humanity to demonstrate our true capabilities to any galactic power that underestimates us. Today, the entire Galactic Council chose to underestimate humanity. Secretary of Advanced Technology Development Marcus Kim studied the display. The resources required for full protocol implementation would strain our entire civilization. "Then we strain our civilization," Elizabeth replied coldly. "They want to see what humanity becomes when we stop playing by their rules. We show them." Admiral Blake, who had remained silent since their return, finally spoke. "The Council controls communication networks, trade routes, and defensive agreements across the galaxy. Open confrontation would be exactly what humanity excels at," Elizabeth finished. "We have never been a species that accepts limitations imposed by others. When the European powers dismissed the American colonies, humanity created a new form of government. When fascism threatened to dominate Earth, humanity united to destroy it. When environmental collapse seemed inevitable, humanity found solutions." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Prometheus Protocol was not merely a military contingency plan. It was a complete restructuring of humanity's approach to galactic civilization. Foreign Minister Daniel Carter raised the obvious concern. "If we implement the protocol, there's no going back. We're committing to fundamental change in how humanity interacts with the galaxy." Elizabeth nodded gravely. "The Council made that decision for us when they laughed at our delegation. They could have granted us membership with probationary status. They could have agreed to gradual integration programs. Instead, they chose mockery and dismissal." General Murphy activated her personal data pad. "How long do we have before the Council expects our formal withdrawal from membership consideration?" "Standard Galactic Protocol allows 30 days for appeals or alternative proposals," Minister Parker replied. "After that, our application is permanently archived. 30 days gives us exactly the window we need for initial protocol implementation. By the time they archive our membership application, it will be irrelevant." Dr. Helen Torres, Director of Xenobiology Research, had been studying the alien species profiles during the discussion. "Your Majesty, the Council's species have advantages we cannot ignore. Advanced technology, established infrastructure, centuries of cooperation. All advantages that make them comfortable and predictable," Elizabeth countered. "They have maintained their system for so long that they have forgotten how to adapt to genuine change. Humanity's greatest advantage has always been our ability to thrive in chaos." The assembled leaders began to understand the scope of Elizabeth's vision. The Prometheus Protocol was not merely about demonstrating human military capability. It was about fundamentally altering the balance of galactic power. "We have work to do," Elizabeth concluded. "Admiral Blake, begin immediate mobilization of all deep space assets. General Murphy, activate the Reserve Engineering Corps for accelerated construction projects. Kim, I want every theoretical technology project fast-tracked for practical development." As the meeting dispersed, Elizabeth remained in the chamber with her closest advisors. The weight of her decision pressed down on her, but her resolve never wavered. "History will judge whether we're visionaries or madmen," Admiral Blake observed quietly. Elizabeth gazed at the star charts still floating above the table. "History will judge us as the humans who refuse to accept galactic dismissal as humanity's ceiling. The Council thinks humanity is too primitive for membership? Let them discover what human primitiveness can accomplish when properly motivated." The next morning, Earth began its transformation from a hopeful applicant to the galactic community into something far more dangerous and unpredictable. The Galactic Council had awakened something in humanity that would shake the foundations of their ancient order. Elizabeth's revolution had begun. Construction began immediately on projects that had existed only in theoretical frameworks. Hidden research facilities across Earth hummed with activity as scientists worked to realize technologies that could level the playing field with more advanced alien civilizations. Dr. Robert Chen led the quantum communication breakthrough that would eliminate humanity's dependence on galactic networks. His team worked 18-hour days to create instantaneous communication systems that could not be monitored or intercepted by Council technology. Meanwhile, Colonel Sandra Martinez oversaw the rapid deployment of automated mining operations to asteroid fields throughout the solar system. If humanity was going to challenge galactic powers, they would need resources on a scale never before imagined. The most ambitious project fell to Admiral Keith Johnson, who commanded the construction of humanity's first truly independent space fleet. These vessels incorporated every lesson learned from decades of study in alien technology, designed specifically to compete with advanced galactic civilizations. Elizabeth coordinated the massive undertaking from the Strategic Command Center, monitoring progress reports from dozens of simultaneous projects. Each day brought humanity closer to the moment when they would announce their new direction to the galaxy. 3 weeks after the Council rejection, long-range sensors detected unusual activity in human space. Alien intelligence services began reporting the construction of massive installations throughout Earth's solar system, but their purpose remained mysterious. The Galactic Council dismissed these reports as typical human inefficiency and resource waste. Chairman Vexstar commented that humanity was probably attempting to build impressive monuments to console themselves after their membership rejection. This dismissive attitude would prove to be the Council's final mistake. Elizabeth smiled at the intelligence reports describing alien confusion about human activities. Soon enough, their confusion would be replaced by understanding, and their dismissal would be replaced by concern. Elizabeth stood before the quantum communication array, preparing to address the Galactic Council for the second and final time. Behind her, the full might of humanity's rapidly deployed space fleet waited for her signal. Open communication to all Council members, she commanded. 29 days after their humiliating rejection, humanity was ready to deliver its response to galactic mockery. Elizabeth's image appeared simultaneously on communication screens throughout the Galactic Council headquarters and on every member world. The transmission bypassed all existing galactic networks, demonstrating capabilities that should have been impossible for humanity's primitive technology. "Members of the Galactic Council," Elizabeth began, her voice carrying across dozens of star systems. 29 days ago, you rejected humanity's application for membership. You dismissed us as primitive, violent, and unworthy of joining your ancient institution. Chairman Vexstar activated emergency protocols in the council chambers. How were the humans broadcasting directly to every member world simultaneously? Their technology was supposed to be centuries behind galactic standards. "You laughed at our potential contributions," Elizabeth continued. "You suggested we spend thousands of years evolving beyond our current primitive state. You treated humanity like children playing with dangerous toys." The transmission quality was perfect, showing no signs of the communication delays that should have affected broadcasts across such vast distances. Council technicians frantically analyzed the signal, trying to understand how humanity had achieved such advanced communication capabilities. "Today, humanity withdraws its membership application," Elizabeth announced. "Not because we accept your judgment, but because we have realized that the Galactic Council has outlived its usefulness." Gasps and shocked sounds erupted across various alien communication systems. No species had ever voluntarily withdrawn from Council membership proceedings. More importantly, no species had ever suggested that the Council itself was obsolete. Elizabeth's expression hardened as she continued. "For millennia, the Galactic Council has maintained stability through predictable bureaucracy and careful management of member species. You have created a system that rewards conformity and punishes innovation." Behind her, holographic displays showed the massive construction projects humanity had completed in just 3 weeks. Space stations, mining operations, and shipyards on a scale that rivaled anything in Council space. "Humanity rejects your system," Elizabeth declared. "We are not seeking membership in your club. We are not asking for permission to exist alongside galactic civilization. We are informing you that humanity will forge its own path among the stars." Council members began urgent communications with their homeworlds. If the humans were serious about independent galactic operations, it could destabilize the carefully maintained balance of power that had existed for centuries. "You called us primitive," Elizabeth said. "You will discover that human primitiveness includes the refusal to accept limitations imposed by others. You called us violent. You will learn that human violence, properly directed, can reshape galaxies." The transmission quality never wavered, even as Council jamming systems attempted to block the broadcast. Whatever technology humanity was using, it was completely beyond Council understanding or control. "Yeah." "Effective immediately," Elizabeth announced. "Humanity claims sovereignty over all uninhabited systems within 50 light-years of Earth. Any Council vessels found in human space will be considered hostile and treated accordingly." The audacity of the claim stunned the assembled aliens. 50 light-years encompassed dozens of star systems, including several that had been designated as Council research territories. "Furthermore," Elizabeth continued, "humanity hereby establishes alternative trading relationships with any galactic civilizations interested in fair and equal partnerships. We offer advanced technologies, innovative solutions, and reliable cooperation to any species that treats us as equals rather than children." Chairman Vexstar finally found his voice. "The humans cannot simply ignore galactic law and establish territorial agreements. The Council will not permit such disruption of galactic stability." Elizabeth smiled coldly at the camera. "The Council will not permit?" Chairman Vexstar, "Humanity is no longer asking for the Council's permission. We are informing you of decisions we have already implemented." As if summoned by her words, massive human vessels appeared on the sensor screens of every Council member world simultaneously. The ships were clearly human in design, but their size and apparent capabilities far exceeded anything the Council believed humanity could construct. "These vessels carry a simple message," Elizabeth explained. "Humanity is no longer confined to Earth. We are no longer dependent on Council infrastructure or approval. We are no longer willing to be dismissed as primitive curiosities." The human ships maintained perfect formation as they held position near each Council member world. No aggressive actions, no threatening maneuvers, just the unmistakable demonstration that humanity could project power anywhere in Council space whenever they chose. "The Galactic Council can continue its ancient traditions of careful bureaucracy and predictable management," Elizabeth concluded. "Humanity will demonstrate what younger civilizations can accomplish when they stop seeking approval from their elders." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Council chambers in chaos as members tried to comprehend what had just occurred. In less than a month, humanity had gone from rejected applicants to a potential galactic power that completely bypassed the established order. Elizabeth turned away from the communication array, her message delivered and her intentions made clear. Behind her, Admiral Blake coordinated the deployment of human vessels throughout the galaxy, while Minister Parker began negotiations with non-Council civilizations interested in partnerships with humanity's emerging interstellar presence. The Galactic Council had laughed at humanity's application for membership. Now they would spend the coming decades learning what happened when humans stopped asking for permission and started taking action. Elizabeth's revolution was no longer a plan or a threat. It had become a galactic reality that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. The age of the Galactic Council's unchallenged authority had ended, replaced by humanity's determination to write its own chapter in galactic history. The immediate aftermath of Elizabeth's broadcast created panic throughout Council space. Every member species activated emergency protocols as their governments tried to assess the implications of humanity's sudden transformation, from primitive applicants to independent galactic power. On Zephyr Prime, the Crystalline Councils convened in urgent session. Their analysis of the human vessels revealed technology that should not have existed. Energy signatures that defied known physics. Propulsion systems that operated on principles their scientists could not identify. "How did they advance so rapidly?" demanded Prime Minister Veltar of the Zephyrin Assembly. "Our intelligence services reported no significant technological developments in human space." Admiral Thakron, head of Zephyron Space Forces, studied the sensor data with growing concern. The human vessels appeared simultaneously at multiple Council worlds. The coordination required suggests communication and navigation capabilities beyond our current understanding. Similar conversations occurred throughout Council space as member species struggled to understand humanity's sudden emergence as a major galactic power. The comfortable assumptions about human limitations had been shattered in a matter of weeks. Meanwhile, Elizabeth coordinated humanity's next phase from the Strategic Command Center on Earth. The broadcast had been the opening declaration. Now humanity needed to demonstrate the substance behind their bold claims. Report from Deep Space Operations, Admiral Blake announced. All 27 human vessels have established position near Council member worlds. No hostile actions detected, but several species have activated defensive systems. Expected response, Elizabeth replied. Minister Parker, what word from non-Council civilizations? Lisa Parker consulted her data displays. 17 different species have requested formal communications regarding partnership opportunities. The Andromedan Collective seems particularly interested in our quantum communication technology. Elizabeth nodded with satisfaction. The Council's rejection has become humanity's opportunity. We no longer need to conform to their membership requirements. We can establish relationships based on mutual benefit rather than bureaucratic approval. Dr. Kim entered the command center with updates from the technology development divisions. Your Majesty, the teams have completed integration of all theoretical projects. Our manufacturing capacity now exceeds anything available to individual Council members. Asteroid mining yields are ahead of schedule. We have raw materials for sustained, independent operations for decades without relying on galactic trade networks. Elizabeth allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Prometheus Protocol had achieved its initial objectives ahead of schedule. Humanity had successfully transitioned from dependent applicant to independent galactic power in less than a month. However, Elizabeth understood that the real test was still coming. The Galactic Council would not accept humanity's unilateral actions without some form of response. The question was whether they would attempt diplomatic solutions or choose more direct confrontation. Her answer came sooner than expected. Chairman Vextar's image appeared on the emergency communication channel, his compound eyes reflecting barely controlled anger. Queen Elizabeth Rodriguez of Earth, by the authority of the Galactic Council, I demand immediate withdrawal of all human vessels from Council member space. Chairman Vextar, humanity appreciates your concern for galactic stability. However, our vessels are operating in international space according to standard navigational protocols. The humans cannot claim territorial sovereignty over established Council research zones, Vextar replied. Your unilateral declaration of territorial expansion violates every principle of galactic law. Since humanity was rejected for membership, we are not bound by Council laws or territorial agreements. The logic was unassailable, and Vextar's mandibles clicked in frustration. The Council cannot permit disruption of galactic stability by rogue civilizations operating outside established frameworks. Elizabeth's expression hardened. Rogue civilizations? Chairman, humanity offered to join your framework through proper diplomatic channels. You chose to reject our application with mockery and dismissal. Now you object when we establish our own framework? The humans lack the experience and wisdom necessary for independent galactic operations, Vextar insisted. Your actions threaten the peace that has existed for millennia. The peace that has existed for millennia, Elizabeth repeated slowly, was maintained by preventing younger civilizations from challenging established power structures. Humanity refuses to accept that limitation. Behind her, Admiral Blake monitored communications from the deployed human vessels. Several Council member species were attempting various forms of intimidation, from weapons system activations to threatening communications. The human ships maintained their positions without responding to provocation. Chairman Vextar, Elizabeth continued, humanity extends an offer of dialogue based on mutual respect. If the Council wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity as an independent galactic power, we are prepared for negotiations. The Council does not negotiate with civilizations that operate outside galactic law, Vextar replied coldly. Then the Council has answered its own question about humanity's future actions, Elizabeth said with finality. We offered membership as junior partners. You rejected us. We offered partnership as equals. You rejected us again. Now humanity will demonstrate what we accomplish when we stop offering cooperation and start ensuring our own interests." She terminated the communication before Vexstar could respond, leaving the chairman staring at a blank screen, with the growing realization that humanity was completely committed to their new path. Elizabeth turned to her assembled advisors. "Prepare Phase 2 of the protocol. If the Council wants to treat humanity as a threat to galactic stability, then we become exactly that kind of threat." Admiral Blake understood the implications immediately. "Ma'am, Phase 2 includes direct intervention in Council territorial disputes. The Council had opportunities to work with humanity as partners," Elizabeth replied. "They chose to maintain their exclusive club and dismiss our contributions. Now they discover what happens when humanity stops seeking approval and starts taking action independently." Elizabeth accessed the strategic databases containing detailed intelligence on current galactic conflicts and territorial disputes. The established order that the Council worked so carefully to maintain included numerous unresolved tensions between member species and suppressed independence movements among younger civilizations. "Minister Parker, prepare diplomatic communications to all non-Council civilizations currently engaged in territorial disputes with Council members. Admiral Blake, redirect half our deep space vessels to positions supporting non-Council forces." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity was about to shift from passive resistance to active intervention in galactic politics. "Your Majesty," Minister Parker said carefully, "direct intervention in ongoing conflicts will confirm the Council's claims about human aggression." Elizabeth's smile held no warmth. "The Council already considers humanity too aggressive for membership. Since we cannot change their opinion through peaceful actions, we might as well earn their hostility through effective ones." Within hours, human vessels appeared in contested systems throughout the galaxy, offering advanced technology and military support to civilizations fighting for independence from Council oversight. The message was clear. Humanity would support any civilization willing to challenge the establishment that had dismissed them. The Galactic Council's carefully maintained stability began to collapse as suppressed conflicts erupted, with humanity's advanced support. Species that had accepted Council dominance for centuries suddenly possessed the means to resist. Elizabeth watched the spreading chaos with satisfaction. The Council had wanted to maintain their exclusive authority while dismissing humanity as too primitive for membership. Now they would discover what human primitiveness could accomplish when it stopped seeking their approval. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had always been their refusal to accept other people's limitations as their own. Sealing. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session as reports flooded in from across their territory. Human vessels were providing advanced weapons, defensive systems, and tactical support to rebellious factions on 17 different worlds. Centuries of carefully maintained stability were unraveling in a matter of days. "The humans have allied themselves with every dissident movement in Council space," reported Intelligence Director Catherine, his tentacles quivering with agitation. "Their technology is allowing previously suppressed groups to mount effective resistance campaigns." Chairman Vexstar studied the tactical displays with growing alarm. Red indicators marked active conflicts where human intervention had transformed local disputes into serious threats to Council authority. "The Andromedan Collective has formally withdrawn from Council oversight, citing humanity's offer of independent partnership," added Foreign Minister Dexara. 3 other civilizations have indicated similar intentions. The implications struck the Council like a physical blow. If member civilizations began withdrawing to join humanity's alternative framework, the Council's authority would collapse entirely. "Order all military assets to converge on human positions," Vexstar commanded. "We cannot allow this disruption to continue." Admiral Thakron hesitated. "Sir, human vessels are operating in neutral space and providing support to legally recognized independence movements. Direct military action would violate our own laws regarding intervention in internal conflicts." The irony was not lost on the chairman. The Council's own legal frameworks prevented them from taking direct action against humanity's interference in their affairs. Meanwhile, on Earth, Elizabeth monitored the developing crisis with cold satisfaction. Every news report of successful resistance against Council authority validated her decision to abandon diplomatic approaches. "Update on Andromedan negotiations?" she asked Minister Parker. The collective is prepared to establish formal diplomatic relations outside Council oversight, Parker reported. They're offering exclusive access to their hyperspace research in exchange for our quantum communication technology. Elizabeth nodded approvingly. Excellent. What about the Epsilon sector conflicts? Admiral Blake consulted his tactical displays. Human support has enabled successful seizure of 3 contested systems. The local populations have declared independence from Council administration. Council response? Military buildup in surrounding sectors, but no direct confrontation yet. They seem reluctant to initiate combat operations. Elizabeth understood the Council's hesitation. Open warfare against humanity would validate every criticism of Council heavy-handedness. But allowing humanity's interventions to continue would result in total collapse of Council authority. They're hoping we'll overreach, she observed. Make some mistake that justifies massive retaliation. Dr. Kim entered the command center with updates from the research divisions. Your Majesty, the development teams have achieved breakthrough in defensive shield technology. Our vessels now possess protection superior to anything in Council arsenals. Perfect timing, Elizabeth replied. Admiral Blake, deploy the new shield systems to all human vessels. If the Council decides on military confrontation, let them discover that human defensive capabilities match our offensive technologies. As human vessels throughout the galaxy activated their enhanced defensive systems, Council intelligence services detected energy signatures that defied their understanding of known physics. The technological gap between humanity and the established galactic powers had somehow reversed completely. On the contested world of Kepler 442b, local resistance forces suddenly found themselves equipped with weapons that could penetrate Council defensive systems. Human military advisors provided tactical expertise that transformed desperate guerrilla campaigns into effective military operations. The humans are not merely providing equipment, reported Council military attaché Raven from the conflict zone. They are revolutionizing resistance warfare with completely new approaches to asymmetric conflict. Similar reports arrived from across Council space as humanity's military innovation proved as disruptive as their technological advances. Human advisors were teaching resistance movements tactics that Council forces had no experience countering. Elizabeth reviewed the reports with growing confidence in humanity's approach. The Council had dismissed human military experience as primitive violence. Now they were discovering that human military creativity applied with advanced technology could neutralize their millennia of tactical superiority. Status report on the Sigma Draconis situation? Elizabeth asked. Complete success, Admiral Blake replied. Council forces have withdrawn from the system. The local population has established independent governance with human consultation, and the Council's response? Increasing frustration. They've requested direct negotiations regarding withdrawal of human support from resistance operations. Elizabeth's smile was predatory. Interesting. The Council that refused to recognize humanity as worthy of membership now wants to negotiate with us as equals. Minister Parker activated the communication systems. Should I establish contact with Council representatives? Not yet, Elizabeth replied. Let them experience a few more days of watching their authority collapse. When we do agree to negotiations, they'll understand that humanity dictates the terms. The strategic patience that had served Elizabeth well during the diplomatic phase now guided her during the confrontational phase. The Council needed to fully comprehend the extent of their miscalculation before humanity would consider any form of agreement. 2 days later, Chairman Vexstar personally requested emergency negotiations with Queen Elizabeth Rodriguez. The formal diplomatic language could not disguise the desperation in the Council's position. Elizabeth allowed the request to remain unanswered for 6 hours before finally agreeing to direct communication. When Vexstar's image appeared on her screen, his compound eyes showed none of their earlier arrogance. Chairman Vexstar, Elizabeth began with formal politeness that carried undertones of contempt. How may humanity assist the Galactic Council? Queen Rodriguez, the current situation threatens galactic stability. The Council requests immediate cessation of human intervention in member world conflicts. Elizabeth pretended to consider his request. Chairman, humanity is providing assistance to civilizations seeking independence from systems they find oppressive. Surely the Council supports the right of civilizations to self-determination? The humans are destabilizing carefully maintained balances that have ensured peace for centuries, Vextar replied. Peace for whom? Elizabeth asked pointedly. The council members who benefit from the current system? Or the civilizations required to comply with council authority whether they agree or not? Vextar's mandibles clicked in frustration. The council offers formal recognition of humanity as an independent galactic civilization if human forces withdraw from current intervention operations. Elizabeth laughed openly. Chairman, 3 weeks ago humanity requested membership in your council. You rejected us as too primitive for consideration. Now you want to negotiate with us as equals, because we've demonstrated the ability to disrupt your authority. The council acknowledges that our initial assessment may have been incomplete. Incomplete, Elizabeth repeated with obvious amusement. Chairman, your initial assessment was completely wrong. You dismissed humanity as primitive children while failing to understand that human innovation operates differently from established galactic norms. Behind her, displays showed the expanding zone of human influence throughout the galaxy. Dozens of worlds had achieved independence with human support. Former council members had established alternative partnerships. The rigid structure of galactic civilization was transforming rapidly. What does humanity want? Vextar asked directly. Elizabeth's expression grew serious. Humanity wants the galaxy to function based on cooperation between equals rather than dominance by established powers. We want civilizations to choose their own paths rather than conform to ancient traditions. The Council cannot accept complete abandonment of legal frameworks that have maintained galactic stability. Then the Council will continue losing authority to civilizations that prefer humanity's approach, Elizabeth replied coldly. Chairman, we offered to work within your system. You rejected us. Now we've created our own system, and other civilizations prefer it to yours. The truth of her statement was evident in the reports flooding Council headquarters. More member civilizations were expressing interest in humanity's alternative partnerships every day. Perhaps, Vextar said carefully, arrangements could be made for partial accommodation of human approaches within existing frameworks. Elizabeth shook her head. Chairman, the time for partial accommodation has passed. Humanity no longer seeks to join your system or modify it slightly. We have created a better alternative, and we will continue expanding it until every civilization has the choice you denied us. She terminated the communication, leaving Vextar staring at a blank screen with the realization that humanity was completely committed to the total transformation of galactic civilization. Elizabeth turned to her advisors with grim satisfaction. Prepare Phase 3 of the protocol. If the Council wants to preserve any of their authority, they'll need to accept fundamental changes to how the galaxy functions. Admiral Blake accessed the next phase of operational plans. Ma'am, Phase 3 includes direct challenges to Council control of major trade routes. The Council had opportunities for cooperation, Elizabeth replied. They chose exclusion and dismissal instead. Now they discover what happens when humanity stops seeking their approval and starts ensuring galactic freedom. Within days, human vessels appeared at strategic positions along the major hyperspace routes. The message was unmistakable. Humanity now controlled access to the infrastructure that maintained galactic commerce. The Galactic Council's millennia of unchallenged authority was ending, replaced by humanity's determination to ensure that no civilization would ever again be dismissed as too primitive for galactic participation. Elizabeth's revolution had succeeded beyond her original objectives, but she understood that the transformation of galactic civilization was just beginning. The economic implications hit the Galactic Council within hours of humanity's positioning along major trade routes. Commercial vessels throughout Council space found themselves unable to access traditional hyperspace lanes without explicit human authorization. Captain Eric Mueller commanded the lead human vessel at the central hub where 7 major trade routes converged. His communications officer reported constant incoming requests from merchant ships representing dozens of different species. Sir, we're receiving approximately 200 authorization requests per hour, Lieutenant Rachel Stone reported. Should we grant access according to the established protocols? Mueller consulted his orders from Earth Command. Grant access to all civilian commercial traffic operated by independent civilizations. Deny access to any vessels operating under direct council, military, or administrative authority. The selective enforcement created immediate chaos in galactic commerce while demonstrating humanity's sophisticated understanding of economic pressure. Private merchants could continue their trade, but official council operations ground to a halt. On Earth, Elizabeth monitored the developing economic crisis with strategic calculation. The Council's power depended heavily on their control of interstellar infrastructure. By seizing control of key hyperspace routes, humanity had effectively assumed authority over galactic commerce. Report from the trade route operations, she requested from Admiral Blake. All major hyperspace junctions are under human control. Council administrative traffic has been reduced by 85%. Commercial traffic continues with minimal disruption for independent operators. Excellent. The Council's authority depended on their exclusive control of galactic infrastructure. Now that humanity provides alternative access, their monopoly is broken. Dr. Kim entered with updates from the Technology Development Divisions. Your Majesty, our research teams have achieved breakthrough in hyperspace navigation. We no longer require existing Council infrastructure for interstellar travel. Elizabeth's satisfaction deepened, meaning humanity can establish completely independent trade routes if necessary. Correct. We can construct new hyperspace access points in any system, providing direct alternatives to Council-controlled routes. The implications were staggering. If humanity could create independent hyperspace infrastructure, they could completely bypass the economic systems that had maintained Council authority for millennia. Begin construction of alternative hyperspace networks connecting all civilizations that have established partnerships with humanity, Elizabeth ordered. Let the Council maintain their traditional routes for their remaining member worlds. Minister Parker coordinated the diplomatic implications of humanity's expanding influence. Your Majesty, 43 civilizations have now requested formal partnership agreements outside Council oversight. The momentum is accelerating. Elizabeth reviewed the list of civilizations seeking alternatives to Council membership. Many were species that had never been offered Council membership, excluded by the same prejudices that had led to humanity's rejection. Schedule negotiations with all interested parties, she instructed. Humanity's experience with Council dismissal has taught us the value of inclusive partnerships. 3 days later, Chairman Vextar appeared again on emergency communication channels, his compound eyes reflecting barely controlled desperation. The disruption of galactic trade threatens the economic stability of dozens of star systems. Elizabeth smiled coldly. Chairman, humanity is not disrupting galactic trade. We are providing alternative access to civilizations that prefer partnership with us, rather than membership in your exclusive council. The humans cannot unilaterally assume control of established trade infrastructure, Vextar protested. The Council cannot unilaterally deny civilizations access to galactic commerce based on political disagreements, Elizabeth countered. Your own laws guaranteeing freedom of navigation support our actions. They had designed galactic law to prevent member species from restricting trade, but those same laws now protected humanity's alternative commercial arrangements. The Council offers renewed consideration of human membership applications under modified criteria. Elizabeth laughed openly. Chairman, humanity no longer seeks membership in your council. We have created our own interstellar organization, and other civilizations prefer our approach to yours. Behind her, displays showed the rapidly growing network of civilizations that had established formal partnerships with humanity. The alternative framework was approaching the size of the original Galactic Council. Your council had centuries to develop inclusive approaches to galactic civilization, Elizabeth continued. Instead, you maintained exclusive membership criteria that served established powers while dismissing emerging civilizations. Now those dismissed civilizations have found each other. Vextar's mandibles clicked in agitation. The Council cannot accept the complete abandonment of legal authorities that have maintained galactic peace. Then the Council will discover what happens when their legal authorities become irrelevant, Elizabeth replied. Chairman, the galaxy is choosing between your exclusive system and humanity's inclusive alternative. The results speak for themselves. She gestured to the displays showing expanding zones of human influence. 57 civilizations have now established partnerships with humanity. 23 have formally withdrawn from Council oversight. Your authority is collapsing not through our force, but through their free choice. Vextar attempted one final negotiation. Perhaps joint administration of galactic infrastructure could accommodate both Council authority and human partnership approaches. Elizabeth shook her head decisively. Chairman, joint administration requires mutual respect between equal partners. The Council demonstrated that you do not consider humanity your equals when you rejected our membership with mockery. The Council acknowledges errors in our initial assessment of human capabilities. Acknowledging errors is insufficient, Elizabeth replied coldly. The Council had opportunities to work with humanity as partners. You chose condescension and exclusion. Now you must accept the consequences of those choices. She terminated the communication with finality that left no room for further negotiation. The Galactic Council's last attempt at preserving their authority through compromise had failed. Elizabeth turned to her assembled advisors with grim satisfaction. Prepare the final. If the Council refuses to accept the transformation of galactic civilization, then we complete that transformation without their cooperation. Admiral Blake accessed the concluding protocols with understanding of their implications. Ma'am, the final phase includes formal dissolution of Council authority. The Council dissolved their own authority when they demonstrated that it serves only established powers while dismissing emerging civilizations, Elizabeth replied. We are simply making their obsolescence official. Within hours, human vessels began broadcasting a formal declaration throughout the galaxy. The transmission reached every inhabited system, bypassing all Council communication networks through humanity's advanced technology. Citizens of the galaxy, Elizabeth's voice carried to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The age of the Galactic Council's exclusive authority has ended. Humanity announces the formation of the Galactic Alliance, welcoming all civilizations as equal partners in interstellar cooperation. The declaration enumerated the fundamental principles of humanity's alternative organization: equality between all member civilizations, respect for individual species autonomy, and cooperative, rather than hierarchical decision-making processes. The Galactic Alliance extends membership to every civilization willing to work with others as equals, Elizabeth concluded. No species will ever again be dismissed as too primitive for galactic participation. As the transmission ended, applications for Alliance membership flooded in from across the galaxy. Civilizations that had been excluded from Council membership for centuries finally found an organization that welcomed their participation. The Galactic Council found themselves rapidly outnumbered by the growing Alliance as their former authority structure collapsed under the weight of its own exclusivity. Elizabeth had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history: the complete transformation of interstellar civilization. Through the sheer determination to ensure that no species would face the dismissal that humanity had experienced, her revolution was complete, but its implications would reshape the galaxy for centuries to come. The final reports arrived at Council headquarters with devastating clarity. 73% of civilizations in known space had joined humanity's Galactic Alliance. Former Council member worlds were withdrawing their membership in favor of Alliance partnership agreements. Chairman Vextar surveyed the mostly empty Council chambers where once dozens of member species had maintained diplomatic representatives. Now only 12 civilizations remained under Council authority, and several of those were reconsidering their positions. Sir, Intelligence Director Catherine reported, the Aquatic Federation has submitted formal withdrawal documentation. They cite superior technological partnerships available through Alliance membership. Vextar's compound eyes dimmed with resignation. How many civilizations remain under Council oversight? 9 confirmed member species. 3 others have requested extended consideration periods before making final decisions. The numbers told the complete story of the Council's collapse. In less than 2 months, humanity had dismantled galactic civilization's oldest institution and replaced it with an organization that attracted overwhelming support. Meanwhile, Elizabeth addressed the first formal assembly of the Galactic Alliance from the newly constructed headquarters orbiting Earth's moon. Representatives from 87 different civilizations attended either physically or through quantum communication links. Fellow members of the Alliance, Elizabeth began, we gather not as superior and subordinate civilizations, but as equals committed to cooperative exploration of our galactic home. The assembled representatives represented every type of galactic civilization, ancient species that had never qualified for Council membership, emerging civilizations dismissed as too primitive, and former Council members who preferred alliance partnership approaches. The Galactic Council served its purpose for many centuries, Elizabeth acknowledged. However, their exclusive membership criteria and hierarchical authority structures ultimately limited their effectiveness in addressing modern galactic challenges. Ambassador Chen Wei of the Andromedan Collective spoke from his crystalline communication matrix. The Alliance approach has already produced technological innovations that surpass anything achieved under Council oversight. Cooperative research between equal partners generates superior results. Similar testimonials came from representatives throughout the Assembly. The Alliance's first months had produced unprecedented breakthroughs in science, technology, and diplomatic cooperation. Elizabeth smiled with genuine warmth as she listened to the success stories. The Council's rejection taught humanity that dismissal based on perceived primitiveness limits everyone's potential. No civilization should face barriers to participation based on others' prejudices. Dr. Sarah Kim, now serving as Alliance Minister of Technological Development, presented the quarterly innovation report. Alliance cooperative research programs have achieved breakthrough in 47 different scientific disciplines. The diversity of member civilizations provides perspectives no single species could develop independently. The presentation demonstrated the practical superiority of Alliance approaches over Council methods. Where the Council had maintained careful separation between member species technologies, the Alliance encouraged cross-species collaboration that accelerated innovation exponentially. Admiral Blake, now commanding Alliance Defense Forces, reported on the security situation. Alliance territory remains completely secure. Our cooperative defensive agreements provide protection superior to anything available under Council oversight. Elizabeth nodded approvingly. The Alliance proves that security through cooperation produces better results than security through dominance. From the viewing gallery overlooking the Assembly, Minister Parker observed the proceedings with deep satisfaction. Less than 3 months after humanity's humiliating rejection by the Galactic Council, they had created an organization that attracted overwhelming galactic support. As the Assembly session concluded, Elizabeth received a priority communication from Earth Command. Chairman Vexstar was requesting one final audience. "Patch him through," Elizabeth instructed. Vexstar's image appeared on the communications screen, but his appearance had changed dramatically. The arrogant confidence that had characterized their earlier meetings had been replaced by obvious resignation. "Queen Rodriguez," he began quietly, "the Galactic Council formally recognizes the superior effectiveness of Alliance organizational approaches." Elizabeth maintained diplomatic courtesy despite their history. "Chairman Vexstar, the Alliance respects the Council's historical contributions to galactic civilization. The remaining Council members have voted to request consideration for Alliance membership." The irony was complete. The organization that had rejected humanity as too primitive now sought membership in the alliance that humanity had created. Elizabeth considered her response carefully. The Alliance welcomes applications from all civilizations committed to cooperative partnership approaches. However, former Council leadership must demonstrate genuine commitment to equality, rather than hierarchical authority. Vexstar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or resignation. "The Council understands that our previous approaches were inadequate for current galactic realities. Chairman, the Alliance believes that every civilization has potential contributions when treated as equal partners. If the remaining Council species embrace those principles, membership applications will be considered fairly." After terminating the communication, Elizabeth reflected on the complete transformation of galactic civilization that had occurred in response to humanity's rejection. The Council's dismissal had catalyzed changes that benefited every species in the galaxy. Admiral Blake approached with the final statistical reports. "Your Majesty, the last independent systems have requested Alliance membership. We now represent 94% of known galactic civilizations, and the remaining Council members? Formal applications received from 8 species. The 9th is reportedly experiencing internal political divisions regarding Alliance membership." Elizabeth smiled with deep satisfaction. "Schedule Alliance membership evaluations according to standard protocols. Every civilization deserves fair consideration based on their commitment to cooperative partnership. The revolution that had begun with humanity's humiliating rejection by the Galactic Council had evolved into the complete transformation of galactic civilization itself. Elizabeth's determination to ensure that no species would face the dismissal humanity experienced had created a galactic community based on inclusion rather than exclusion. As she looked out at Earth's moon, where Alliance headquarters buzzed with activity from representatives of nearly 100 different civilizations, Elizabeth understood that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy was not their technology or military capabilities, but their refusal to accept others' limitations. The Galactic Council's mockery had awakened something in humanity that reshaped the balance of power among the stars. Their dismissal of human potential had catalyzed changes that would benefit galactic civilization for centuries to come. Elizabeth's revolution was complete, but its legacy would continue transforming the galaxy long after her reign ended.